Hello, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to another episode of RevUs Reviews. Today, we're taking a break from defending movies as I take a look at some of the stupidest dreck to ever hit the silver screen with my top 10 best so bad it's good movies. There are few things as enjoyable as mocking a bad movie. Now, I don't mean a film like The Last Airbender or Bucky Larson Born to Be a Star that's just utter garbage. No, I'm talking about so bad it's good movies, the guilty pleasures, the 80s cheese fests, the schlocky and cliche rom-coms. And while sometimes it's fun to watch someone riff a bad movie MST3K style, other times it's fun to just let the bad movie stand on its own, relish in the badness, and even riff it with friends and family members. So in honor of the time-honored tradition of mocking so bad it's good movies, I will present my list of my top 10 best so bad it's good movies. And before we start, I just want to say one thing. The Room and Birdemic will not be on this list. Don't get me wrong, they're both ironically enjoyable so bad it's good classics. But they've been picked apart to death, from the Nostalgia Critic to Faceless to Riff Tracks to JonTron to I Hate Everything. There's nothing more to say about these two movies that haven't been said by literally everyone else. So, no disrespect, but they won't be on here. There's nothing else I can add that hasn't been added by a bunch of other people. However, I think what will be on this list will satisfy you just as much.
My smile is stuck. I cannot go back to your frown land. My spirit's made up of the ocean and the sky.
Number 10, Night of the Lepus. Night of the Lepus is a horror film about giant killer bunnies. And no, it's not a self-aware parody like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This movie wants you to be scared of giant killer bunnies. Granted, the giant bunny effects are impressive, especially considering that this film was made in 1972, but it's killer freaking bunnies! Bunnies are not scary. And I think they realize that because they try to compensate for it with RoboCop levels of gore. Seriously, it's like the bunnies are just blood with a tiny bit of bones. As for the characters, they're as stock as horror movies characters get, but they're still enjoyable and likable, and the acting is a fine line between good and silly. Also, one of the characters is played by DeForest Kelley, most famous for playing Bones on Star Trek. So if you're into Star Trek, just check this film out. And there are so many silly moments in this film, from a guy screaming like a little girl at the sight of a giant bunny, to one of the bunnies trying to punch one of the main characters. This movie is just crazy. It's ridiculous in every way, and about as scary as a troll in Central Park, but it's an enjoyably goofy good time. But it's an enjoyably silly good time for all. Number 9. Supersonic Man. If you're into 70s cheese, Supersonic Man is right up your alley. It's like if the old George Reeves Superman show was made in the 1970s. The acting is bad, the story is a mess, the villain is incredibly hammy and looks like an attempt to combine a William Shatner and Liberace, not to mention the fact that he's played by Cameron Mitchell from Space Mutiny. And as for the titular Supersonic Man, he's just a ridiculous character. His costume is the most garish thing I've ever seen. His personality is really boring, and his And his romance with the daughter of the scientist kidnapped by the villain was so cliche, I literally called it the first time I watched the movie. On top of that, there's a death robot who's so non-threatening that it makes Johnny Five from Short Circuit look like the Borg, a comic relief drunk who's simultaneously the best and worst character in the movie, and, no joke, a scene where the bad guys are driving down a slight incline and their car just spontaneously bursts into flames for no reason. If you want cheese in its purest form, Supersonic Man delivers. Number 8. Cool as Ice. Unlike most people, I don't hate Vanilla Ice. Sure, he's not amazing, but he does have a cheesy charm as shown in his hit song Ice Ice Baby. Also, he went to my high school, which is really cool. As for his motion picture, oh man, Cool as Ice is something special. The plot is ridiculous and stupid. It juggles between being silly, dramatic, and suspenseful. The music is enjoyably lame. Every character feels like they're from a completely different movie, and Vanilla Ice's character is an alien. Seriously, Vanilla Ice's character acts like an actual alien. Also, there are so many insane scenes, like the part where Vanilla Ice, yeah, I know his character has a name, but he's basically Vanilla Ice, scares Catherine's horse with his motorcycle, and acts like nothing happened, and the scene where Catherine and her family just fast forward for no reason. The designs in this movie feel like if the designs from Chairman of the Board got severe head trauma. Catherine is attracted to Vanilla Ice for literally no reason, and of course, the unforgettable bad movie line, drop that zero and get with the hero. Cool as Ice is proof that sometimes people who aren't actors shouldn't act. Number 7. Rad. Rad is like if you took every sports film cliche, removed all the drama and weight behind those cliches, took some 80s cheese and some bike stunts, and then ramshackled them all into one movie. This film is so cheesy, ridiculous, and dumb. The characters are one-dimensional, the dialogue is silly, the story is hackneyed and cliche, there are so many montages that you can make a drinking game out of it, and the soundtrack is quintessentially 80s. It's the kind of film that knows it's cliche and has fun with itself. It's so stupid, silly, and cliche that you could guess the plot within 15 minutes, but it's so enjoyably goofy and fun that you'll be enjoying it regardless. If you're a sports movie fan and want something quintessentially 80s and cheesy, put on your nostalgia goggles and check out Rad. Number 6. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I already talked about Superman 4 in episode 7, so if you want an in-depth look at why I like this movie, I left a link in the description for that episode. The short version is that Superman 4 is an enjoyably stupid movie. There are a billion subplots, most of which go nowhere. It knows as much about nuclear war as I do about Shakespearean dramas. The acting and dialogue is incredibly cheesy, and the special effects are some of the worst in movie history. But in my opinion, Superman 4 does have some merit to it. It has good acting, an interesting plot, new characters that are at worst pointless, but at best genuinely interesting and enjoyable, great villains in the form of Lex and Lenny Luthor, and it provides a satisfying conclusion to the Christopher Reeve Superman series. While it's definitely not as good as the first two movies, Superman 4 does serve as an enjoyable follow-up and a satisfying finale to the Christopher Reeves quadrilogy. And no, Superman Returns does not count as an entry in the Christopher Reeves franchise. It just doesn't. Number 5, Samurai Cop. If Tommy Wiseau made an action movie, it would probably look something like Samurai Cop. The characters are personified action cliches. The action and fighting are enjoyably silly. The acting is awful. The plot is both vague and cliche, but by far the worst part of this thing is the dialogue. Samurai Cop has one of the worst scripts I've ever seen. Joe Marshall, the titular Samurai Cop, calls the bad guys geeks. A nurse openly asks Joe if he wants to fuck her, and Joe's smart aleck black partner, because of course he has one of those, goes under a fence and says he did it because he's an undercover cop. Also, this film has a weird kind of sexism in that every woman in this film that isn't an extra is either lust-ridden, dies, or is completely useless. There's a red-haired henchwoman who barely does anything, and in the shootout with Joe, runs out of bullets, and instead of hiding behind the wall to reload her gun, like a smart person would, does it right in the open, and of course gets shot to death. Also, the sex scenes in this movie are so bad that they make The Room's sex scenes seem amazing by comparison. I'm not even joking. I'm completely serious. Bottom line, Samurai Cop is a ridiculous, stupid, enjoyably bad disaster piece. I'd personally recommend watching the Riff Tracks live version, especially because you get the added bonus of the riffing of a short where a kid makes a being out of chalk, which teaches him how to be a good student, but Samurai Cop is perfectly fine to watch on Rift. Number 4, Suburban Sasquatch. If you want to see a movie that makes Night of the Lepus look like The Exorcist, Suburban Sasquatch is for you. The main thing that makes this movie so bad it's good is the Sasquatch itself. Not only does it look incredibly fake and have enormous nipples for some reason, but the scenes where he attacks people are so horrible, they're amazing. Also, the acting is bad, the characters are memorably bad despite lacking in personality, motivations are thrown out the window, and the effects are insanely bad. It's honestly hard to sum up in a short review like this. The only way to truly see how bad this movie is to just see it. It's that bad. Number 3, The Amazing Bulk. Pretty much everyone agrees that The Amazing Bulk is garbage, but there are some people that see it as enjoyable garbage and others that see it as just plain bad. And seeing as it's number 3 on my best so bad it's good movie list, you could probably tell where I fall in that spectrum. While it lacks the naivete and genuineness of films like The Room and Birdemic, The Amazing Bulk makes up for it by being absolutely insane. The acting is terrible. Every background is a green screen. The characters are either cliches or stupid. The ending is completely unsatisfying. The script is on par with Samurai Cop in terms of bad dialogue. The effects are god-awful. The CGI looks horrendous. Everything looks like a cartoon. And there is so much stock footage in this film that it looks more like a Windows tutorial than a movie. And of course, the Bulk himself. Now, aside from the whole scientist turns into hulking monster thing, this movie doesn't rip off the Hulk too much. But the effects on the title character are horrendous. If you thought the Hulk in the Ang Lee film looked bad, take a look at this. This is what the Bulk looks like. Seriously, I did not create this. This is actually part of the movie. Bottom line, The Amazing Bulk is amazingly bad. And for the people in the comments section writing how The Amazing Bulk is just bad, I do kind of agree. The Amazing Bulk is a bad movie, and parts of it are torture to watch. But the reason it's so bad it's good is A, there are certain scenes that are so bad they're hilarious, and B, because it's bad in its own unique way. So many other bad movies are a dime a dozen. There's a billion rip-off kiddie movies, and the films MST3K covered, while having their own unique problems, all suffer the same general problem of having stupid plots, dull characters, and awful special effects. But there is only one amazing bulk. It's a fascinatingly bad train wreck of a movie that you can't look away from. Number 2, Stiff Odds. It's unlikely that you've heard of this film, but you should. Stiff Odds is an underrated bad movie classic. The acting is awful. The story is insane. The characters act like aliens. The dialogue is made up of lines too weird to make it into an episode of Twin Peaks. The effects are terrible. The camera work is astonishingly bad. And there are so many surreal and stupid moments in this film that it makes every Neil Breen film look normal in comparison. Here are some examples of the insanity Stiff Odds has to offer. One of the characters, Pongo, has a homicidal second personality named Amy. One of the characters goes into an insane tirade about how rocks aren't invited to spiders' weddings. There's a character named Bert who's basically the Grim Reaper, but he looks like a man in a red full body suit with tentacles on his head. When Pongo eats his pancakes, his chair flips over and a face that looks like Bert if he got hit by a tranq dart appears in the pancakes, telling Pongo to open a casket, and then Amy takes over and stabs the pancakes with a plastic knife while saying, "Take that, you stupid flipping pancake." A car being driven by the Spider Weddings guy blinks into existence. There's a subplot with two guys trying to bet on Bert's Who Will Live contest, which has nothing to do with the actual film. Bubbles appear out of nowhere. There's a scene where Pongo and his friend Sheba run to a phone booth and prank a guy by saying, "Hello, do you have syphilis? Well, you better go catch it." Pongo and Sheba discuss how you can't kill a lobster, but you can boil it. When Pongo opens one of the caskets, a corpse named Ivan comes out of it and steals Pongo's car. One of the corpses, Sam, tells Pongo and Sheba about how she, Ivan, and Lucy, another corpse who is a man, were attacked by 3 ghetto thugs in one of the worst, most poorly made flashback scenes you'll ever see. And finally, when Sam, Pongo, Ivan, Lucy, and Sheba are at a restaurant, Sam points a gun at the waiter and he says that this is a gun-free restaurant. Yes, all of that happens in this film. Bottom line, if you're a fan of So Bad It's Good movies, you need to see Stiff Odds. But you're probably wondering why I didn't put this film at number 1 if I think it's such a So Bad It's Good masterpiece. Well, there's 2 reasons why. 1, the film kind of gets slow near the end. It's way too gory, and there are too many scenes of Pongo and Sheba fighting Ivan, Sam, and Lucy, which gets old really fast. Also, Sheba kills Bert in a really gruesome way. And 2, as enjoyably silly, surreal, and bad Stiff Odds is, it doesn't compare to the masterpiece of 80s cheese that is number 1, Supergirl 1984. There is so much to make fun of in this film. From the stupid characters, to the numerous plot holes, to the stupid ideas, to the ridiculous contrivances, to the invisible monster, to the fact that Jimmy Olsen was the only person from the original Superman franchise to appear in this thing, to the fact that Supergirl's roommate at the girls' school she's hiding out at just happens to be Lois Lane's sister, to Faye Dunaway's performance as the villainess Selena, which gives her performance in Mommy Dearest a run for its money, to the insane amount of cheesiness and campiness in this film. While Stiff Odds is objectively worse and the product of a fever dream, Supergirl is such a ridiculous, insane, cheesy movie that it actively kills your brain cells while you watch it. It's a movie that has to be seen to be believed. And if you haven't seen Supergirl or any other film that was discussed in this video, check them out. You won't regret it. That's all for now. Join me next time when we take a look at a superhero movie that, while not as stupid, silly, and cheesy as... While not as stupid, silly, and cheesy as Supergirl, is definitely a weird one. See you then.